100 participants who already are with us and more arriving. And I would like to, at this point, give the word for the opening address to our host, Mr. Loucas Fourlas, a member of the European Parliament.
Thank you very much. Good morning to everyone. Thank you for being here with us today. Special thanks to the European Society of Pediatric Oncology, SIOPE, for the great organization. It's an honor for me to host this event. This is a great opportunity to exchange views and hear how we can tackle the inequalities across Europe related to childhood cancer from those directly involved. Every child in Europe must have access to treatments and essential medicines. Actions speak louder than words. I strongly believe that it's time for action. It's time to develop more broadly our sense of we. The European Parliament, the BECA Committee, the Commission have set specific goals. It's of the utmost importance to align the regulations with science and with the needs of children. The battle against cancer is a very sensitive and personal issue for me, which has become a collective battle and moral duty for all of us. No matter which political party we represent or which country we come from, no child should struggle alone. No family should fight cancer alone. It's not just a slogan, it's a vow that will never break. Dear friends, I will not break my promise to be brief. Let's leave the science talk. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, MEP Loucas Fourlas. My name is Pam Kearns. I'm the president of the European Society of Paediatric Oncology, and I am so pleased that Loucas has hosted this meeting for us. This is our first virtual International Childhood Cancer Day. Obviously, because of the pandemic, we could not all meet in Brussels, but I don't think that detracts from the event. I am hugely grateful to not just to Mr. Fourlas, but to all the MEPs that have committed to this meeting, to the commissioners that have committed their time to this meeting, and of course to all of you who've attended it. So we have a really busy schedule. I am not going to say too much. We need to get on with the agenda. Just a couple of words about the running of the meeting. I would ask all the speakers to state a time so we all have an opportunity to hear what everybody says and hopefully some discussion. And for the audience, if you have any questions or comments, please put it in the chat. That will be fed to all the speakers, and then we can respond to your questions and comments through the chat. So just go to the chat icon if you want to make any comments. This is an auspicious day to be having this meeting, not only International Childhood Cancer Awareness Day, but we're delighted to know that the plans for the European Beating Cancer Plan will be announced today, and we're really excited to hear their content. We'd like to start the meeting with a short video prepared by SIOPE Europe, just highlighting some of the issues in relation to childhood cancer. So if we could run I've always wanted to say this, run the VT, and we'll just watch the video now. Thank you. Thank you. I would like now to introduce our first presenter for the International Childhood Cancer Awareness Day today. And it is with great privilege that I welcome Veronique Trillet-Lenoir, who has been a strong friend and advocate of the issues for childhood cancer and a supporter of SIOPE Europe. Veronique is an oncologist, and she's also an accomplished cancer scientist before becoming a politician. And she was elected to as a member of the European Parliament in 2019. And since being a member has been on the Committee of the Environment, Public Health and Food Safety, and is the rapporteur for the Special Committee on Beating Cancer. I hand the microphone to you, Veronique, and thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you, Pamela. Thank you to the SIOPE organizers. Thank you, my dear friend and colleague, Loucas. And thank you to all of you for your strong and constant commitment towards improving the access to diagnosis, treatment, and care for pediatric cancer patients. As you know, the fight against pediatric cancers is one of the priorities of the BECA Special Committee, the Special Parliament Committee Against Cancer. In the framework of our dedicating hearings, we have identified several domains in which progresses could be made, and these are the topics I will support as the rapporteur of this committee. Of course, one of the tools identified is course research. In the multi-annual budget of the European Union, the Horizon Europe Research Programme dedicates a special mission to cancer research. And one of the 13 recommendations of the Council specifically identifies cancers in children, adolescents, and young adults. We will be following very closely the implementation of this orientation for research. Beyond research, I would like to focus on three main other tracks. First one, we have an opportunity on pediatric cancer drugs. Adopted in 2007, the EU Pediatric Medicine Regulation has only resulted on 9 innovative cancer medicines targeted for pediatric oncology, and it allowed less than 10% of late-stage cancer, children with cancer to have access to these new medicines. Of course, we have to do much better. The revision of this legislation is announced for the first quarter of 2022, and it should allow us to guarantee the access to innovative targeted anti-cancer drugs, to determine the most important drugs to respond to the needs of children affected by rare cancers, to reduce the delays for pediatric medicines to reach children, and to tackle the limited access to some essential medicines due to drug shortages and to the high price of innovative medicines. My second point will be legislation to guarantee an equal access across Europe to standard care expertise and clinical research. We should really improve this. We should ensure the extension of the European reference networks to reduce inequalities to access to the best available treatment for children across Europe. We should evaluate and, if needed, reinforce the children's rights to cross-border care. We should fully implement the clinical trials regulation in order to facilitate academic research on childhood cancer and to improve patients' and parents' empowerment. Finally, we should think of better support to the patient's family, not only from the medical point of view, but also on how to offer the child and his family better social, educational, psychological, and financial support. Third and last point, we should ensure the quality of survivorship. Up to 60–70% of childhood cancer survivors suffer from cancer and treatment-related long-term effects. We could promote guidelines to follow all possible late occurring side effects, including cardiac toxicity, secondary tumors, and infertility, and set up a survival passport. We should include childhood cancer survivorship issues in EU programs and policies, including health, psychological well-being, and employment. And last but not least, what about facing one of the main type of discriminations being considered uninsurable by promoting the right to be forgotten? For instance, in France, Belgium, Luxembourg, and the Netherlands, cancer survivors who had cancer under 18 should not be discriminated against other consumers. This right should be available in all the member states. As the rapporteur of the Special Committee to Fight Cancer, and of course, as an oncologist, you can count on me to relay our common priorities at the European level against all cancers, and in particular, pediatric cancers. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I think that was a fantastic opening to our event and highlighting absolutely the key messages that we need to address. So thank you so much for that really excellent opening presentation. It is now with great pleasure that I introduce our next speaker, which will be by video. Ursula von der Leyen, President of the European Commission, has very kindly sent us a video address. Unfortunately, she couldn't be with us today, but I think we can all imagine how busy she is at the moment. President von der Leyen has been a strong advocate of the issues of cancer and specifically childhood cancer since taking on the presidency, and is really driving the cancer agenda in Europe. In Europe. So it's with great pleasure I introduce her video address.
Dear Lucas, dear friends of the European Society for Paediatric Oncology, in a year of pandemic, we've all been reminded that science saves lives. The world's best hopes lie in the hands of doctors, biologists, researchers who are racing to develop vaccines against the virus. And when we first heard that a vaccine against COVID-19 had been developed, I thought of the famous quote by Churchill. He said, "Never was so much owed by so many to so few." End of quote. We owe so much to researchers, and I want the European Union to always be at their side with all the support they need, because they are at our side against coronavirus and against all other diseases. In 2020, over 1 million Europeans died of cancer, twice as many as the victims of coronavirus. And still last year, more than 15,000 European children were diagnosed with cancer. I was 13 years old when my little sister, Eva Benita, died of cancer. She was just 11 years old. 2 years before she died, her pain started. It was an endless odyssey from specialist to specialist, until after months, the cause of her pain was diagnosed. A reticulosarcoma, a rare cancer. For my family, the diagnosis was a bolt out of the blue. All of a sudden, our calm was shattered. The days were filled with fear and the nights with tears. Back then in 1971, there was nothing the doctors could do to save her. But since then, research has progressed so much. Diagnoses are much more precise. New classes of cancer drugs have been discovered. And this can make the difference between life and death for thousands of children. And this is why the Childhood Cancer Awareness Day is so important. Research saves lives. It is with this confidence in science that 1 year ago we started working on a new plan against cancer. We consulted doctors, researchers, but also patients, families, and survivors. We received over 200 contributions from the pediatric cancer community. And today, I am proud to announce that we have just adopted our proposal for Europe's Beating Cancer Plan. It is a plan to put innovation and new technologies at the service of cancer care. It is a plan for prevention and early detection. And crucially, it includes a new initiative called Helping Children with Cancer. The initiative will target the specific challenges of pediatric cancers. For instance, by the time they are diagnosed, 80% of pediatric cancers have already spread to other parts of the body. And this must change. So the initiative will focus on rapid detection and early diagnosis, together with treatment and care. It will be supported by our research program, Horizon Europe. And together with the funding, will also come policy and legislative measures. The survivors of pediatric cancer face specific challenges, and almost 1/3 of them suffer severe long-term consequences. The initiative will create a Cancer Survivor Smart Card and an EU network for youth cancer survivors. This is precisely to monitor the survivors' health through the years and help them build a new life. Together, we can give children with cancer a better chance. Together, we can make a difference for children and for their families, for research, for millions of Europeans who are fighting for their life. Thank you for joining.
A huge thank you to President von der Leyen. So officially, we hear now that the Beating Cancer Plan is launched. And what a fantastic, heartfelt message. And to hear the Helping Children with Cancer initiative within the Beating Cancer Plan. It really makes my skin feel warm to hear that childhood cancer is finally at a top priority within Europe. And I think we would all congratulate everybody who's been involved in the European Cancer Plan for driving this initiative. And we hope we see progress in future. So what a great way to get this meeting rolling. And now we have another video address, again from somebody who is extremely busy within the European Parliament activities addressing COVID, the COVID pandemic at the moment. And that is the Commissioner for Health and Food Safety, Stella Kyriakides. For those of you that don't know Commissioner Kyriakides, she's been one of the people at the centre of leading the Commission's work to coordinate the health response to the pandemic, and has been responsible for the EU's vaccine strategy to try and produce, and very successfully produce the effective vaccine strategy for EU member states. Stella's been a real advocate for women's rights, children's and patients' rights over many years, and has driven hard the European Cancer Plan to promote the cancer prevention and care, and in particular the new pharmaceutical strategy, where we hope to be able to develop affordable medicines for all members, excuse me, for everybody within Europe, and particularly for children. And so it's a great pleasure I introduce her video presentation from Commissioner Stella Kyriakides.
Ladies and gentlemen, members of the European Society for Paediatric Oncology, dear friends Veronique and Loucas, you all know that for myself, as for you, cancer is both personal and political. And as you have just heard, it is the same for President von der Leyen. Last year in the EU, 2.9 million people were diagnosed with cancer. Many of these were children and adolescents. It is the #1 cause of death by disease for children above 12 months. So cancer is personal to many children and their families. I remember working for 20 years in the area of psycho-oncology, and I know firsthand the feelings of anxiety, of sadness, and of loss. But I also know the great feeling of meeting children and young adults many years after the diagnosis, young adults having their own children, and surprising me by remembering every single word we shared in the hospital. With Europe's Beating Cancer Plan, we want to change the face of cancer in Europe. We want to take away the fear that often comes with this word and replace it with hope, with resilience, and with action. We want to improve cancer prevention in the home and in the school, in how we live and interact with the world around us, in how we leverage innovation, data, and new technologies to improve cancer prevention, diagnosis, and treatment. Europe's Beating Cancer Plan will shine a spotlight on childhood cancers and will help us to better protect those most vulnerable parts of our societies, our children, our adolescents. Through the plan, we will support research into the causes of childhood cancer, as well as novel treatment and care solutions for children and adolescents living with and after cancer. The after cancer part of this discussion is especially important. A major focus of our cancer plan will be to treat the person and not just the disease. We will be addressing the long-term consequences of pediatric cancer and the many obstacles these children face. President von der Leyen has already touched on some of the important initiatives we will be presenting today. So I will focus for a moment on the very crucial issue, which is the focus of today's event: access to medicines. COVID-19 has been a wake-up call for all of us. It has highlighted the importance of more resilient health systems, greater strategic autonomy when it comes to the supply of medicines, and the more sustainable cancer care sector. This year, we will launch an EU platform to improve access to cancer medicines and the Cancer Diagnostic and Treatment for All initiative to improve access to innovative cancer diagnosis and treatments. Europe's Beating Cancer Plan, with the Pharmaceutical Strategy for Europe, will make important contributions to cancer treatments and access to medicines. These actions will also benefit our children. Together, they are all essential building blocks of our strong European health union. A union that cares, a union that protects, a union that brings all its resources together to improve the health of its citizens. Ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, exactly 1 year ago, we launched the work on Europe's Beating Cancer Plan. The European Society for Paediatric Oncology said it offered a unique opportunity to put pediatric cancers at the top of the agenda. We got to work on that, and I want to thank SIOPE for engaging closely with us over the past year. Europe's Beating Cancer Plan is just the beginning of a journey. This is a moving, breathing, living plan, and its stakeholders, like SIOPE, will give it life. Let me finish by asking you to join me on this journey. A journey that celebrates life, a journey that puts hope first, a journey that mobilizes every tool at our disposal to beat cancer. All together, we can turn this plan into reality in the world of pediatric cancer. Thank you.
And thank you to Stella Kyriakides for, again, an excellent message. I think these introductory speeches have really highlighted how childhood cancer is genuinely at the top of the agenda for the EU now and for the future. And we have so much to build on now. So the next part of the session, we're going to go into a bit more depth and discussion about what the issues are, particularly with respect to not only current treatments, but also innovative treatments and how we can move towards a better position for the future. So before we start the next session, I've been instructed by the SIOPE Europe office that we need to have a photograph of all the panelists. So could I invite all the panelists to turn their cameras on and their best smiles, ready for a photograph once all the cameras are on. We're nearly there. And if I could invite Veronique and Giorgio, if you wouldn't mind putting your cameras on. Fantastic. And Patricia, I wonder if you'd like to put your camera on, please. I wonder if they're having technical problems with their cameras at the moment. I think they may be having technical problems. Olga, would you like to facilitate the photograph and then we can move on with the meeting? You're on mute, Olga. Are we okay? Can we move on?
Yes, I'm sorry, I was mute. Okay. Let us all smile for this nice photograph. Thank you for your cooperation.
Thank you very much. Okay, so it's with great pleasure then that we can move on to the part one session. And this is obstacles and ways forward in access to medicine in pediatric malignancies, a really important topic. And we have two very important speakers dedicated to this session. And I would like to first introduce Delphine Heenen. Delphine is a mother, a lawyer, and I've known Delphine for many years now, and she has worked tirelessly to try and promote change in the research landscape for children with cancer. And like all parents, she holds the paediatric oncologist to account to make sure that we really address the issues at pace. And Delphine is a member of the parents organisation CCI Europe and is a founder of the organisation KickCancer. The panel, this session is also joined by Professor Gilles Vassal, who I suspect needs very little introduction to many of you. But Gilles is a paediatric oncologist in Gustave, Roussy. He's dedicated his life to accelerating drug development for children with cancer and has driven so many initiatives in Europe. He's the founder of the Innovative Therapies for Childhood Cancer, ICCD. He is the founder of Accelerate, the multi-stakeholder organisation to drive accelerated drug development for children with cancer. He's a past president of SIOPE Europe, and I'm delighted he is still a member of the board and our leader on policy. So with that introduction, I would like to hand over the microphone to Professor Vassal to open this session.
Thank you very much, Pam. Good morning. In 2007, the pediatric medicine regulation was launched in Europe, and it changed significantly the evaluation of medicine in several pediatric diseases. But now it is well established that it failed to boost innovation for children with cancer. And Europe is launching at the moment the new pharmaceutical strategy that is including a revision of both the pediatric and medicine and orphan regulations. And this is an opportunity to set up, as mentioned by Veronique Trillet-Lenoir, the right regulatory environment to accelerate innovation for children and adolescents with cancer. SIOPE Europe and CCI Europe are really keen to contribute in shaping this right regulatory environment. And we made 6 recommendations. And this morning, Delphine and I would like to highlight 3 of these 6 recommendations. The first one is to align regulation with science and unmet needs and not with adult conditions. What does it mean? The regulation is currently driven by the adult condition, the disease for which the drug is developed in adults. And the pediatric development of a drug is considered only when the disease occurring in adults is occurring in children, for example, asthma. And when the disease in adults does not occur in children, the pediatric development is waived and the industry is not developing the compound, for example, Alzheimer's disease. But this does not work in oncology. Why? Pediatric cancers are different from cancers occurring in adults, but 90% of the anti-cancer drugs available are used to treat both. So clearly the objective where better shaping the regulation is to introduce the fact that a drug should be considered for pediatric development based on the way the drugs works, the mechanism of action, and not the adult condition. A short example. In 1994, the gene ALK was identified, discovered as altered in a pediatric lymphoma. In 2011, the first ALK inhibitor, crizotinib, was approved for the treatment of ALK-positive lung cancer. But lung does not exist in children. So the company, Pfizer, did get a waiver and did not develop the drug. The academic research decided to evaluate because there was a strong rationale, biological rationale to do so. And we are very pleased that 2 weeks ago, January 14, 2021, crizotinib has been approved for the treatment of pediatric lymphoma. 10 years. And we all know that marketing authorization is absolutely crucial to ensure that a new medicine is available and accessible for pediatric patients. So for 10 years, crizotinib was not accessible for children with relapsing lymphoma.
I know a young patient who needed an ALK inhibitor. He was running out of standard treatments and an ALK mutation was discovered in his tumor. But because the drug was not authorized and marketed for a pediatric indication, his only chance to get access to that drug was to participate in a clinical trial. Thanks to that trial, he was declared in complete remission for a few months with an excellent quality of life. Other children do not get the chance to be enrolled in a clinical trial. And as Gilles mentioned, crizotinib was only approved in 2021. And it's only when a drug is authorized and marketed that all patients can be treated on an equal foot. 10 years until the approval of crizotinib, while so many children lost the opportunity to get better. And it really breaks my heart. When patients are fighting an incurable disease, the time is now, and they need to access the drugs as fast as possible. This situation is totally unfair, and it must change. And not only must those drugs developed for adult cancer become faster available for young cancer patients, but also innovative drugs developed specifically for children are direly needed. When my son Raphael relapsed from a rhabdo in 2016, he was treated with a combination of old off-label drugs that only offered meager chances of survival. If that combination had not worked, there was not a single ongoing relevant clinical trial for his condition in 2016. Yet my son almost miraculously made it despite additional conditions, and he's doing well today, although he is not safe from cancer yet. 5 years later, there is still no clinical trial open for his disease if he was to relapse again. This too must change.
The second recommendation is facilitate pediatric development of medicine that are terminated in adult cancer development when scientifically justified. Overall, only 10% of all anti-cancer drugs entering adult development in adults eventually, at the end, are authorized and become a medicine used for the treatment of cancer in adults. For 90% of such drugs which entered clinical development, the development is terminated for various reasons: safety issue, lack of efficacy, but also for strategic decision and financial decision. But we know that this drug can be interested for pediatric cancer. And these drugs are named shelf drug because companies put this drug on the shelf because they no longer develop them. And based on the biology of the tumor, the mechanism of action of this drug, this shelf drug can be very much useful in development for children with cancer. But at the moment, it is complex and extremely difficult to access the shelf drug for pediatric development, and this needs to be facilitated.
It actually sounds surreal to know that when a drug could be efficient for a pediatric cancer, when there is a scientific rationale, that drug could not be recycled in pediatrics. I personally tried to act as an intermediary between a biotech and a pharma company to convince the latter to transfer the terminated drug. The pharmaceutical company had publicly announced the termination of its adult development, and they were extremely sympathetic to my plea. And we had the opportunity to discuss on many occasions, but the practical and mental barriers for such a transfer are numerous. And I did not succeed in changing the culture, in changing the way the company worked, and in ultimately convincing them to transfer the drug. Let me mention just a few of those barriers. Most pharmaceutical companies are organized to buy new drugs in development, not to sell them. Their whole corporate culture is spinning around acquisitions and not divestments. Companies are afraid of losing an opportunity for a good drug, so they would rather keep it undeveloped for a long time rather than transfer part or the whole intellectual property to a company which they ultimately see as a competitor. But once again, keeping a drug undeveloped for long is not a good solution. Let's not forget that for young cancer patients who need those drugs, waiting time amount to agony. The M&A culture is also such that the transfer of terminated drugs is far too expensive for the selling company. And that's another extremely good reason not to do it. And in this very complex environment, we need you, legislators, to improve the system, to fix it because it's broken, and to facilitate those transfers for patients who really need access to innovation.
And the third recommendation we would like to share with you is the following. Implement multi-stakeholder cooperation and prioritization as a standard. Indeed, we need to keep in mind that over the last 20 years, oncology research has significantly accelerated. And there is an explosion of innovative medicine in development and approved for the treatment of adults with cancer. And of course, not all these drugs can be and should be developed in children, but the right ones. So it is of the utmost importance to prioritize pediatric development to meet patient needs based on science and in a timely fashion, because time is an issue. And we know that prioritization is not easy. but must be done through a process involving all stakeholders, industry, academia, regulators, and patients advocates. So over the last 5 years, the Accelerate International Initiative has demonstrated that multi-stakeholder cooperation is feasible, is of great value, and can install a new mindset, putting science and patients in the center. So Delphine, how the parents are really contributing to this multi-stakeholder initiative?
Well, naturally, we contribute with our own experience of former patients on how we want research and clinical trials to be conducted. We can give advice on clinical endpoints, but also on the practical aspects of a clinical trial and what is feasible for a family and what is less feasible. But mostly, I think that when we participate in those trials, we are important and good reminder to all the stakeholders that patients stand for more innovation. And there is something that we repeat over and over because it's something that is hard to, it's a message that is hard to convey, is patients don't want to be protected from research. We want to be protected with good research. And once we have identified a drug that needs to be prioritized, there is absolutely no reason to hold back. We have to go on and move forward and open a clinical trial to demonstrate whether it is actually safe and efficacious.
So in summary, a new regulatory window is opening in Europe with this revision of the pediatric and orphan regulation. This is a major opportunity to make it right for pediatric cancer and to facilitate, accelerate the development of innovative therapies for children and adolescents with cancer to cure more children and to cure them better. The goal is to move from a drug-centric regulatory environment to a science and patient-centric regulatory environment. And for that, we need your help to shape this regulatory environment, and we are absolutely ready to work with you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you both. That was fantastic, really clear description of the issues. What I suggest we do, we've got a few questions that have come up in the Q&A, but perhaps we'll move on to the next session and then take all the questions together at the end of that session. And if you would like to look into the chat, Delphine and Gilles, you'll see the questions in advance so you can think about your answers as we go through. So having really addressed the issues of innovation and how we improve access to innovation for children with cancer, there's the huge issue of the current treatments and how do we ensure equity of access to current available best care throughout Europe. And for that, we have two excellent speakers who I'd like to invite to turn on their microphones now. Thank you. And I can introduce them both. So first we have Lejla Kameric, who is, like Delphine, a member of CCI Europe, and she's also the president of Heart for Children with Cancer, an organisation that Lejla has had huge influence on over many years. Lejla is also a mother and an IT engineer with a background in economics and has spent a time in the banking sector, but has also dedicated her time to trying to improve and raise awareness of the issues of trying to struggle with accessing best care in countries such as Bosnia and Herzegovina. I'm also delighted to introduce Reineke Schut, who is from Utrecht in the Netherlands, and Reineke is the head of Young SIOPE. This is the organisation within the European Society of Paediatric Oncology, just for trainees, young oncologists who are undoubtedly our future. And Reineke has been a real advocate for driving this essential medicines programme that they're going to describe. So if I could hand the microphone over to Reineke and Lejla to discuss this session.
Thank you, Pam, for the nice introduction. we are speaking now about essential medicine, so not about innovations. And when we talk about equal access, what does that mean? We hear very often that all patients should have the same access to treatment. But what is the reality? I personally did a small research asking parents from different European countries. Did you personally face the shortage of the drug needed to cure your kid? How is the procedure of registering particular drug, essential drug needed for childhood cancer? Do you need to pay for them out of your pocket? Is the cost reimbursed? And the answers were almost the same. In some cases, costs for medicaments, some medicaments are not covered. Even covered, parents need to find by themselves, and the reimbursement procedure is too long. Even part of basic protocols, some of medicaments are not registered. Bureaucracy is complicated and very often can be too late. In some countries, health insurances are not known as good payers, therefore are avoided by pharma companies. And we are here talking about essential medicine, not about innovative therapies. Let me share two personal stories so you can better understand the situation. One is coming from Belgium, and which is heart of the European Union, and the other one from Bosnia and Herzegovina. There is a small boy called Rafael in Belgium who is currently undergoing 2 years maintenance treatment, which includes drug named vinorelbine. And this drug exists in intravenous formulation and oral formulation. Intravenous formulation requires patients to go to the hospital on a weekly basis and to have either central injection installed or to give it to kid directly. And of course, parents decided to use oral formulation, and as in that case, child does not need to go to the hospital. But guess what happened? Oral formulation is not registered for sale in Belgium, and it needs to be ordered from France or Germany. And parents should take care about it. In the end, it is not reimbursed because of this off-label drug is not registered for underage patients, and it has to be purchased from another country. What is oral formulation in case of kids? It's life changer. It's a great opportunity to increase quality of life for the kid and for the whole family, and to be compliant to the treatment at the same time. It should be easier to prescribe this rather than in an injection, but the opposite happened. The other story is from Bosnia and Herzegovina. It's a small country. It's not part of European Union, but still in Europe geographically, and therefore small market for pharma companies. Drug approval system is extremely complicated with so many layers of approval. We all know that sick kids cannot wait, but what to do in that case? One of recent example is drug called methotrexate, which is essential drug for many childhood malignancies. For example, leukemia, which is the most common childhood malignancy. Very often is missing in the market, even approved for the kids. And what to do in that case is, we know that a sick kid cannot wait. In that case, NGOs, parent organizations, or parents itself have to find a way to buy it. Sometimes they buy it in neighboring countries, sometimes in Western Europe. They have to bring it over the border, which is illegal. And we know this is illegal, but what else can we do? We cannot afford ourselves that sick kid wait for the treatment. In the end, I would like to emphasize once more, equal access to medicine is needed and is must for all children in Europe, despite the place where they live, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. With this statement, I will finish my part and I will hand over to Veronique to give her perspective as a professional in terms of essential medicines and access to.
Thank you, Lejla. Thank you for sharing these stories. And I would like to ask Olga to share my slides, if possible. So I'll give you a short overview of 2 projects that we're currently working on within SIOPE Europe, and I'll present on behalf of my colleagues mentioned on the screen, but as you can imagine, many more people were involved with the work that we've done so far. Next slide. So in the beginning of this year, Professor Gilles Vassal and his colleagues published a paper in the Annals of Oncology summarizing the results of the JARC survey. This survey was sent out to pediatric oncologists, pharmacologists, and parents of 37 countries, and they listed 68 medicines that were considered essential for the treatment of children with cancer in Europe by a community of professionals in pediatric oncology. And this list didn't just focus on medicines that are newly developed and very expensive, but included very well-known and relatively cheap medicines very much needed for treating cancer in children. They found that 35% of the medicines were prescribed off-label in at least one country. Only 44% of medicines were available in at least 90% of the countries all the time. And 1/3 of the parents reported out-of-pocket costs. So these results confirm the stories you've just heard from Lejla. In Europe, parents encounter shortages of anti-cancer medicines, and when the GNI per capita is lower, these shortages are more pronounced. And in Europe, we also have financial barriers to anti-cancer treatments. Next slide, please. So this led to the development of 2 projects within SIOPE Europe under guidance of Professor Gilles Vassal. And this first project was coordinated by Maria Ott and Eva Brack from our Young SIOPE community. And it aims to provide an evidence-based list of essential medicines for the treatment of cancer in children in Europe. And this list will help parents and the professional community to negotiate on a national level to work on shortages and the reimbursement of medicines. And secondly, we will share these data with the WHO for their essential medicines list for their consideration when they update the list in the coming years. It was a big team effort. It was coordinated by SIOPE Europe. 35 mentees of our junior community, Young SIOPE, were supervised by 21 mentors of the different clinical trial groups in Europe. And they covered all different disease entities within pediatric cancer. They searched 56 protocols and found 59 drugs that they considered essential for treating children with cancer, and 29 of those drugs are not yet on the essential medicines list for children as it is. We are currently preparing a manuscript, and we've submitted 3 reports to WHO for their consideration. Next slide, please. The second project focuses on health technology assessments. And I think to most of you, you'll be familiar with HTAs, but in short, when a new medicine is developed, it's evaluated by the European Medicines Agency. And after EMA grants market authorization, it will need to be considered by the different HTAs in the European countries. The HTAs also consider efficacy, like EMA does, but also consider cost effectiveness and decide upon reimbursement. But how these processes take place is highly variable between the different countries in Europe, and we also, in the pediatric community, are not really aware if the specific aspects, so typical for pediatric cancer, are taken into account with these assessments. Next slide, please. We are currently undertaking a study where we selected 3 drugs, blinatumomab, CAR-T, and dinutuximab, and 9 countries depicted here in red. And in collaboration with two HTA experts, Bert Leufkens and Geert Frederiks from Utrecht University, we are evaluating the different timelines and also the process of these HTA assessments. Next slide, please. The point that Lejla and I tried to raise here with you today is that we hope you will grasp the opportunity now for an ambitious implementation of the pharmaceutical sector, with specific attention for shortages, innovation, financial accessibility for children with cancer. And secondly, we do really need a uniform and coordinated HTA assessment for children in Europe. Next slide, please. Because the ultimate goal, and that's a repetition of what you heard before, is that we aim to achieve equal access to medicines to children in Europe 24 hours, 7 days a week. Thank you.
Thank you, Lejla and Veronique, for these excellent presentation. So we have a few minutes to answer some of the questions that have appeared in the chat. I'll just quickly respond to the comment from Jen Kelly, who's a member of the Grace Kelly Childhood Cancer Trust in the UK, who's commenting on the fact that obviously UK has now left the EU and what the impact of Brexit would be in paediatric oncology. And I would just like to reassure Jen that SIOPE Europe is a European organisation. The boundaries do not just stop with the EU member states, although of course we are hugely privileged by the input from the European Parliament for childhood cancer. But the organisation of both CCI Europe and SIOPE Europe extends to all European countries because, of course, childhood cancer knows no borders. And the comment from Irina Ban, just thanking that we have looked at the voices or heard the voices of parents and children from non-EU countries. Thank you, Irina, for your comment. I would like to direct two questions back to Gilles and to Delphine. The first one it's two comments together from Mark Domes. Mark has made the comment that I'm just finding it again in relation to the issue of off-label medicines, that this doesn't just apply to paediatric cancer, it applies to many rare diseases, but also ask the question about the fact that not many patients contribute to phase 1 studies. And I just wonder if perhaps Gilles, you would like to make a comment on this.
Sure, thank you very much, Pam. In answer to the question by Mark Dooms, in oncology, phase 1 trial are proposed to patients with relapse and advanced malignancies. We do not have healthy volunteers, especially in pediatric oncology phase 1 trials. And we do run quite a number of early phase trials because this is the way to access to innovation for children whose disease recurred and we have no treatments to propose. And parents participate. They do review the protocols. They do review the information package before we submit our phase 1 clinical trial. So yes, parents and patients participate to the development of these early phase trials, which are meant to provide access to innovation for those children with a not curable disease. And regarding off-label, I fully agree with you. Off-label is a common situation across all pediatric malignancies and orphan disease as well. And this is what we are working on because we believe we need to have a collection of information about the use of the off-label drug because it is important to generate such information to serve better the development of medicine.
Thank you, Gilles. The other question, maybe just a very brief answer, is from Yelena Lazic, and she asked the question, how helpful are the patients-directed associations like N-trackers? It's not an association I've heard of, but the principle of the question is important.
Delphine, you want to address this one, or would you?
Well, I'm not really familiar with the N-trackers organization. I think I heard about it one, and if my understanding is correct, it's a gathering of former patients who had a tumor with an N-track mutation. I don't know exactly what they do, so it's difficult for me to answer, but I would personally see an added value in the creation of a community for the follow-up of the long-term side effects of that drug. I think we all know that researchers will focus on certain types of side effects, and the community of patients can really foster input on other potential side effects that maybe could go under the radar when they don't talk to each other. So that's definitely one aspect that I think is irrelevant. For the rest, I'm not aware of what they do, so I'm sorry, I can't answer much further.
So Pam, if I may, a short additional comment. NTRK is a new target, which is interesting because it's present in many cancer in adults and several cancer in children. And there are drugs approved for the treatment of any malignancies with the NTRK alteration. But this is approved by the regulatory agency. But sometimes the health technology assessments do not consider there is sufficient evidence to warrant that the reimbursement of those drugs in all malignancies. And this is where clearly the patients and patient advocates may play a role really to inform about the need for access to these innovative so-called tumor agnostic compound, because clearly some patient can benefit from it.
Thank you, Gilles. In the interest of time, I'm going to close this session. There is another question in the chat, which is redirected about how patient advocates can promote research in countries where they're still excluded from clinical trials. So I might ask if Delphine, if you wouldn't mind trying to answer that question in the chat. And with that, I'd like to say a big thank you to all our speakers, to Gilles Vassal, Delphine Heenen, to Lejla Kameric, and to Roussy for a really informative session. And with that, I would like to hand over the chair to my friend and colleague, Professor Pamela Rizzari, who is President-elect of SIOPE Europe. Pamela.
Thank you very much. It's a real pleasure for me to be here with all these distinguished people. I would like to ask the first speaker to start. Let me see at the. Well, I would like to greet also my co-chair, who is Professor Ruth Ladenstein, who has a long list of roles, very important roles, and she's a coordinator of the ERNPED CAN, and she's our representative within several committees within the European Commission. I would like to hand over the floor to Maria Spiraki. Well, it's a pleasure to have a lot of members of the Parliament speaking in this session, and I think there is no parties here to be specified. All we are here to work together for the kids with cancer. So I am very pleased to give the floor to member of the European Parliament, Maria Spiraki. Thank you very much.
Carmela, from an organizational point of view, if I may just point out, we also had a special video message.
Ah, sorry. Yeah.
You can play it first, and then maybe hand over to our distinguished.
Yeah. Sorry
okay?
for
So if I can help you.
Yeah, Ruth, you can go ahead. Yeah, sorry.
And coming quickly, because it's my very special honor to announce the video address that we kindly received by the chairman of the European People Party, by Manfred Weber. So I'm short on this, and we are happy to receive the video message. Please.
Hello to everyone from the European Society of Paediatric Cancers community. And thank you to Loucas Fourlas and Dr. Pamela Kearns for inviting me to share my message. Growing up should be a time to be lighthearted and cheerful. But cancer steals childhood from kids who face it. Because they are so rare, European cooperation is essential to find effective treatment for childhood cancers. Today in the west of Europe, there are 11 times more relevant clinical trials than in the east. In Europe, Every child must have equal chances and equal access to treatment. That is why pooling of our resources, sharing data, ensuring interoperability and investing in artificial intelligence must be at the center of our efforts. Our EU master plan to fight cancer includes an ambitious goal. Today, 80% of children are cured. This is remarkable, absolutely, but we can do more and we can achieve at least 90% are cured by 2030. The EPP group and I myself, we stand behind you. Together, we can protect our children and give cancer no chance. Hello to everyone from the European.
Well, I think this message has finished. Thank you, Olga, for backing me up on this list of speakers. And now I would give again the floor to Maria Spiraki for her brief speech. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning to everyone. Thank you for having me. It is very important for me to participate in this high-level meeting. And I would like to thank SIOPE and, of course, my colleague Loucas Fourlas for this meeting. As we all have heard today, children and adolescents with cancers in Europe experience inequalities in access to the best available standard treatment, essential medicines and innovation. It is imperative that we have to address these disparities for the sake of our most vulnerable and precious population, as children, which are our future. And this way we uphold European unity and equity for all citizens. We need to make sure that the needs of children with cancer are a clear priority when we implement the ambitious measure for EU pharmaceutical strategy on shortages, affordability, innovation, and digital transformation. Focusing on children, the European Commission published a comprehensive evaluation of the legislation for medicines for rare disease in children by assessing the strengths and weaknesses on the orphan and pediatric medicine regulation. The lack of sufficient investment and the slow pace of innovation has stalled the progress in curing pediatric cancers, which remains the first cause of death by disease in children older than 1 year of age in Europe. Neither regulation served the aging needs of children with cancer, and those who are fortunate to survive their cancer must also cope with acute and persisting adverse long-term side effects caused by older medicine. Furthermore, there are still inequalities in access to new and essential medicines for children with cancer across Europe. In this regard, I would like to welcome the ongoing impact assessment on the EU legislation on rare and childhood disease. And I would like to say that a target revision of pediatric regulation is a unique opportunity to foster the development of innovative therapies for children and to improve the lives of survivors, too many of whom experience adverse late effects due to older medicines today. I therefore call for all EU decision makers, including the members of the European Parliament, to mobilize around the recommendation promoted by SIOPE regarding the legislation on rare and childhood disease, thereby taking decisive steps to address the major unmet needs for children with cancer. More broadly, these recommendations apply to what the childhood cancer community would like to see addressed within the pharmaceutical strategy for Europe. And allow me to refresh this recommendation for the economy of the discussion. It is because we must have aligned the regulation with science and unmet needs for children, ensure child-specific and first-in-child innovation, implement multi-stakeholder cooperation and prioritization as a standard, allocate public investment in medicine development for children, align global regulatory environment, ensure equal access to essential and novel anti-cancer medicines and supportive care medicine. In addition, it is vital for me that measures are synergetic with Beating Cancer Plans, Horizon Europe, and other relevant initiatives and programs, such as EU for Health. It is important to have for the research and innovation the adequate funding. And in this regard, I would like to welcome the initiative when it comes from the European Parliament under the plan of Europe Beating Cancer. Pediatric cancer is a very sensitive issue, but it is also a battle that we can win. and I insist on this. With shared knowledge, shared experience, shared data, we could overcome and finally succeed. My bet for my country as a member of the European Parliament is to establish a pediatric cancer registry platform to evaluate better and help design control plan in my home country, Greece. I would like also to underline that as a woman and as a mother, cervical cancer is an issue that concerns me. Thankfully, cervical cancer can be prevented through vaccination against HPV and cervical precancerous lesions screening and treatment. Vaccination for HPV must be available for free in every member state for girls and boys as well. I would like to conclude by saying that we, as EU policymakers, can make a pivotal change for children with cancer by making sure that their needs are explicitly and specifically addressed in EU initiative on pharmaceutical, healthcare, and research. Overall, prevention is our first goal. Information, education, and screening can prevent, lead to the diagnosis and cure. That is what we aim to do, to reduce the cancer burden for patients, their families, and health systems by preventing cancer. Once again, thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much. This was a very nice address of the hope we wanted to have for all kids in Europe and for each of the countries. I would like also now to hand over the floor to Honourable Member Patrizia Toia. I pronounce her name very well because she is in Italian. She was born in the same region where I work, and we know her since many years because she has been on our side for a lot of initiatives. So she's a volcanic person, and I will leave her the word to give us some good news about her great and your commitment to pediatric cancer. Thank you. You should. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Everything is okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Can you hear me? Okay. Okay.
Yes,
It is an honor for me to be here today to commemorate that important day for cancer, for childhood cancer. The COVID crisis has put a strain on our healthcare system and has showed us the even more urgent need to address the issue of childhood cancer. The rarity of individual pediatric cancer types and their resulting health burden across Europe make coordinated EU-level approaches crucial. The today launch of the EU Cancer Plan points rightly in this positive direction, in my opinion. The Europe's Beating Cancer Plan proposes action and investment for all stages of the disease, considering the prevention, diagnosis, treatment, and the quality of life of patients and survivors. The plan encourages health in all the policies in order to tackle cancer in every environment of our life and wanted to foster a better coordination between member states. This is a very crucial problem on data sharing and on cancer screening and treatment. It's very important that this plan puts the patient in the first place, with the encouragement of all implementation of the directive on work-life balance for parent and caregiver. This directive is not implemented in our member states, and the monitoring of cancer survivors. This is a great and necessary opportunity to deal with cancer more effectively. At all its stage, we are on the right track to change the future realities of cancer in Europe, and now it's the moment to do that. However, it's a huge challenge and there is still much to be done. Firstly, Europe's investment in childhood cancer research needs to be scaled up to address the magnitude of challenges faced by this population. In fact, cancer is the main cause of death in children older than 1 year. Pediatric cancer develop early in life and over a much shorter period opposed the adults cancer, which result from long-term processes. Cancer in adolescents and young adults also require special attention as their biological characteristics are different both from early childhood cancer and from cancer in adults. As an indicator of a current state of play, it's worth mentioning that more than 150 cancer medicines were developed in the last decade, in that last decade, and only 9 of them, namely 6%, were approved for children, only 6%. Furthermore, treatment must be accessible to all. In EU, there are still large differences. We are in the same EU, but we are not the same citizens in Europe. There are still large differences in treatment between citizens of different states, but also between citizens of the same country in some cases. We must strive to ensure that every citizen, every European citizen, has equal access to care and medicines. Research and innovation on cancer is a high priority for the EU, especially in this period. Nonetheless, this disparity within and between the member states lead to inequality in outcomes, cancer research and control. Choosing cancer as one of the mission areas of Horizon Europe will help to address the disparities across the EU. The mission on cancer under the Horizon Europe framework expects to optimize the diagnostics and treatment of cancer, in particular for rare cancers, as well as cancer occurring in children, adolescents, young adults, for which currently no effective treatment is available. By joining efforts across Europe in this sense, with existing ambitious EU networks, the important collaboration of those ambitious EU networks, more people would live without cancer, more cancer patients would be diagnosed earlier, would suffer less, and have a better quality of life after treatment. Moreover, it is important to mention EU for Health, which brings together organizations that share the vision of a Europe and that underlines the COVID-19 has shown EU action on health is more urgently needed than ever. In this period, we speak about in Europe of Health. In addition, more resources in this direction will be put in place as well with the Horizon cluster on health, which will receive 8.2 billion of funding. In conclusion, progress to beat childhood cancer is a priority for us, and I strongly, but not only I, we strongly ask that in the mission on cancer there will be a sufficient focus on pediatric oncology. This is a strongly ask for us. In fact, we want to finally stress out that the most important European initiative in this period is named Next Generation EU. And in this framework, we won't forget children and adolescents patients. Thank you.
Thank you very much for touching so many important issues and for launching this new definitions. Very much appreciated. I would, in the interest of the time, hand over the floor by the moment to Giorgos Georgiou, who is a member of the Beating Cancer Committee. I see him on the line. I hope he can switch on the camera. Here he is. Thank you very much for your contribution.
Thank you. Do you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Dear colleagues, dear friends, allow me first to extend my gratitude to my colleague Loucas Fourlas for organizing this very important event. It is my privilege to be with you, contribute to the discussion and explore ways of further enhancing our cooperation towards beating childhood cancer in Europe. No one can deny that pediatric cancer remains a major public health problem and an issue of social injustice. While some improvements have been achieved over the past years, much more needs to be done, especially regarding the equal access to medicines. The numbers reveal the reality. Each year, more than 35,000 children and young people are diagnosed with cancer, and more than 6,000 young patients die. What is more, 2/3 of childhood cancer survivors experience long-term health and serious psychosocial problems due to their disease and treatment, which may be severe and affect their daily life. Our duty is to end this menace. The least we can do for our children is to stand by them and help them to achieve what would have been otherwise impossible to achieve alone. Our goal is to tackle all inequalities that exist among children regarding their access to prevention, early diagnosis, medicines, treatments, and patient services. We want to enhance children's quality of life and safeguard their right to access public hospital and quality care and expertise. Our aim is to integrate patients and parents across Europe, bridging the gap between family groups, professionals, and policymakers. At the EU level, my political group, GUE-NGL, the left, has a priority the fight against rare diseases, as is the case of pediatric cancer. One of our main demands is to increase EU funding for research and innovation as regards pediatric cancer and the development of orphan drugs. What is more, we also work towards enhancing the reference to pediatric cancer on the mission of Horizon Europe. Together with my colleagues, we have set the following as our main goals: ensuring equal access to medicines and treatments, increasing the funding for health research to find new medicines and innovative therapies, and provide financial support towards families struggling with the incurable disease. Our struggle is not easy, but we will continue until health is safeguarded as a public social good for all. Guided by the incredible courage of our children who are fighting for their lives. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you. Thank you. We are very much comforted by your words. So Ruth, it's your turn.
Thank you very much. It's now my special pleasure to announce a contribution from the European Commission. To my knowledge, we should have Fabio D'Atri help getting us the perspectives from the Commission side, and I will express my very special thanks to the Commission, being a member of the Kensington Mission Board, for the extreme support throughout the whole process, extremely constructive. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Ruth. And first of all, apologies. At my place, there should have been Olga Solomon, but she has been called in an urgent meeting on COVID-19 treatment with EMA, so she has asked me to replace her, but she will express her full support to the day. And thank you for the invitation. So, as we have heard from several participants, we are in a crucial moment for pediatric cancer, and I can confirm we are in a crucial moment to improve the number of treatment and the quality of treatment that are available for children suffering from cancer, but not only for them, for all children that currently don't have at their disposal treatment that are developed and studied specifically for them. As MEP Spiraki has mentioned, we have concluded an evaluation on the pediatric regulation. We have published it during the summer. And what we have seen is that overall the pediatric regulation has worked. the number of clinical trials involving children has increased, the number of medicine for children has increased. But there is a big but. The development of medicine for children goes up when there is a parallel adult need, where there is development in adults. Otherwise, we still see very limited development. One of the conclusions of the evaluation is precisely this, the lack of development in areas of very high therapeutic needs for children, and this includes pediatric oncology. So there are very limited innovative drugs for treating pediatric cancer developed specifically for them. But even for the pediatric oncology, even when there are treatments that are under development for adults, and due to their mechanism of action, they could be promising also to treat children cancer, they are often not tested for them due to how the legislation is currently structured. Another aspect that we have seen is the differential availability and access in the various member states of pediatric product. So what we have done, we are starting to consider the revision of the pediatric regulation, and we are in the so-called impact assessment phase. So where we look at possible solution to the problem that we have identified. So for example, we will explore the need to take into account the mechanism of action of a product when considering the need to conduct a pediatric investigation plan. Furthermore, we will explore also mechanisms to foster development in areas of highest need for children. So what I think was Delphine mentioning, there are very limited innovative drugs. So we have to see which mechanism we could put in place to boost development in this area. And concerning access, we will explore what are the causes of the problem with access and availability of medicine for children, and consider ways to ensure that all patients in the EU have access to the best treatment available. Access and availability are very complex, as we have a problem, as we have heard from Lejla and Reineke. I mean, there is pharmaceutical companies that are not interested sometimes to put medicine in small markets, also due to pricing consideration. There are complex national provision on pricing and reimbursement. Sometimes you have the HTA bodies that we have heard what they are, sometimes they don't see the importance of formulation, pediatric formulation. So sometimes you have a formulation on the market, but it's not, I think it was Lejla that mentioned this, is not adapted for the children. So these are all issues that we have to take into account. And we should not forget shortages. Even if a product is authorized and in principle should be marketed, should present on the market, there is a huge problem with shortages in Europe. And this is not only for pediatric medicine, but it's involve all medicine. And on this, I would like to also recall that the issue of access and unmet needs are not only dealt in the revision of the pediatric and orphan regulation, but are part of the big reflection that is on the EU pharmaceutical legislation within the EU pharmaceutical strategy. And as has been said, this reflection needs to all be coordinated with the various actions that are currently ongoing. And I would like just to conclude that in the coming month, there will be several consultation activity and the possibility for stakeholders to intervene. And I would welcome really to call to all of you to be active. We need to create a better regulatory framework for children, and specifically children with cancer. And so I would like to welcome an active and constructive collaboration in the coming months from all stakeholders. And I will stop here, Ruth, and I will take questions if there are. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for inviting us to contribute to the review of the pediatric regulation, and thank you for addressing indeed in such a concise way the high medical needs and also the access problems in member states. So we trust in working together we will really deliver a change. I'm afraid we will have discussion points later, and for the interest of time, it's now my honor to invite Nathalie Moll, as Director General of the European Federation of the Pharmaceutical Industries and Associations, for her contributions on the topic today.
Thank you so much, Ruth, and thank you very much to SIOPE for the invitation. I think that what I've heard this morning, and it has been fascinating, is, as you just said, Ruth, now, is the need for collaboration in order to find solutions. And what I'm reading in the chat, in the questions, as Fabio alluded to, the hurdles to improved access are many. In a study that we recently published last year, we found about 10 different hurdles to access of medicines in general. And then, of course, the complexity of pediatric medicines takes this probably to even further levels. And when I was hearing the Commissioner explain the EU platform to improve access to cancer medicines, I really hope that many stakeholders are part of that platform, because it's really only when we are together that we can bring up the hurdles, agree which ones need to be tackled by who and how, and make progress. It goes everywhere from scientific progress to HTA issues to pricing reimbursements to regulatory. And the more we work together, I think the faster we will be to find solutions, which in the case of pediatric cancers is really, all cancers of course, but pediatric cancers in particular is so key, is so important. And it was very moving to hear the various testimonies. I think, as I said last year, we all have unfortunately experiences probably of either direct family or friends who are suffering in the tunnel of pediatric cancers that don't have solutions, and we want to find quick solutions. If we could go to the next slide, please. I just wanted to say, I mean, there is some good news, of course. There have been breakthrough innovations done by our industry and others that have contributed to big, extraordinary changes in survival rate of cancer patients, including of children's. But we're really working to make sure that these improved survival rates are not just in some classes, of course, of diseases, but in more, and that they apply to children's and adolescents as well. And this, of course, aligns with our mission to really better serve society, including pediatrics, including children, including adolescents, with new valuable therapeutic options that address unmet medical need. We feel that the pediatric regulation that was already mentioned in the last 13, 14 years has already delivered many new drugs. Never enough. It's never enough, right? In our field, it's never enough. But we already have a lot, and it was really an incredible catalyst for this development. And also, it has allowed the development of agreed pediatric investigational plans, and you can see really that more is already in the pipelines. And we shouldn't forget that. And it's difficult, of course, because what we see in front of us is the need. But we also have to understand, and it was reminded this morning, that there's tremendous scientific challenges and market failures posed by pediatrics and rare diseases that are clear stumbling blocks as well. The results that we've had in just these 13, 14 years are remarkable, I think, considering the time it takes to develop a medicine, in about 15 to 20 years time. And as I mentioned, I think we are clear that our objective is to advance care in these areas while having the right incentives in order to be able to do so in a sustainable way. And we're sure that significant improvement in science now, with all these new biological sciences coming, that can really improve the situation. But of course, more can be done. And I think this is a leitmotif of today's conference. More can be done, more has to be done. And if you wouldn't mind going to the next slide, please. We really agree with SIOPE that great progress has been made, but unmet medical need remains, especially in this area. And although each new treatment represents an additional step in addressing the unmet medical need, the assessment of remaining unmet medical need really needs consideration of the realities of medical progress and a sophisticated understanding of the cycle of innovation over time. It's clear that a one-size-fits-all is not going to work, given the differences, the heterogeneity of pediatrics and also rare diseases for children. And any process that can identify these unmet medical needs, define them. As you know, we don't have a shared definition, really needs to build on a multi-stakeholder discussion to include patients, importantly, their caregiver, physicians, as well as the downstream recognized decision makers, HTA bodies, payers, everybody, so that we can agree what are the unmet medical needs and how do we have to focus, because time is of the essence, and money and science is, needs to be focused on where it can make a difference. We also agree with SIOPE that new incentives to enable more development into pediatric focused medicines will be needed to generate that viable, sustainable innovation. And we need to really make sure that pediatrics, if you like, is a little bit comparable to difficult fields like the antibiotics fields, which is, like, in a very similar way, very underserved and has very small patient populations, and the challenges posed by R&D and economic bottlenecks are enormous. And we believe that a lot of lessons can be learned from the antimicrobial field, where new entrepreneurs took on the development challenge. But unfortunately, we've seen several examples of companies that, although they successfully bought a new product on the market, they went bankrupt shortly later because they didn't have the right economic environment to support them. This has been recognized in the pharma strategy of the European Commission, and I think we have we want to avoid a similar fate for entrepreneurs in the area of pediatrics development, to make sure that they're supported all the way through the innovation journey to a final product. And we also agree that, and without any doubt, better access, as I mentioned at the beginning, is essential to novel anti-cancer medicines across Europe. And it's really exciting, if I may, to see so many people from so many countries connected to today's conference. It's really knowing the issues that you face and being able to sit together and identify the root causes of the access difficulties in the different countries that will help us find shared solutions, including, of course, solidarity, which is in the area of pediatrics and childhood cancer so clear. And lastly, we obviously agree that there's a lack of sufficient investment and enabling policies to boost innovation for children and adolescents with cancer in Europe. Some conditions or disease areas are still poorly understood and they lack any therapeutic options. I think we need to develop these scientific knowledge, the diagnostic capabilities, and the clinical endpoints have to be developed. And that was also mentioned in the comments. It's a holistic approach, right? It's not just about the treatments, but it's about being able to diagnose, it's about being able to measure the outcomes. So it's really why collaboration, as I said in the beginning, is so important. And there are some already showing value in IMI projects like Connect for Children or EU Pearl or ITCC P4, I always get that one wrong. They're already delivering valuable outputs to streamline pediatric drug development. And these project outputs must be integrated into the R&D framework in a sustainable manner to have a long-lasting effect. And that is always our challenge when we try to connect research with really final development. And just as a conclusion, my last slide, if you could click on that, thank you. I think it's clear that as long as there are children living with unmet medical needs, whatever those needs may be, but especially also in cancer, as an industry, we won't rest. And it is our tagline, but it is an actual fact and an actual commitment that we won't rest to discover and develop and deliver new medicines in collaboration with all partners. We welcome the Commission's intention to keep pace with scientific and technological developments to develop medicines for children and to ensure procedures remain efficient globally with the pediatrics review. And we agree, as I already mentioned, that new incentives in addition to dedicated research funding and accelerated regulatory pathways can stimulate R&D in areas of unmet medical need for children. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for highlighting these very important points and really to give your support into the future on common developments, because it's a common action of many that is really needed to really introduce a change, which hopefully will happen over the next decade fundamentally. Carmelo, I hand over to you.
Thank you very much, Ruth, and let me congratulate also from my side with Natalie Moll for you know, so bright and concise points presented during her speech. Now we have a part dedicated to our panelists from Cyprus. So you may be aware that we are hosted by the Cyprus MEPs. So I will give the floor to, we have 15 minutes left, so I would ask to be quite brief to all of them. So Averov Neophytou, who is the president of the Democratic Rally in the governing party in Cyprus. Thank you for intervening to this discussion.
It's really a great honor to be with you today in this pan-European web event hosted by our very own MEP, Loucas Fourlas. The scope of this event is to raise awareness and inform people about childhood cancer. I would also like to share with you that I'm very proud as two Cypriots from our political party, the Democratic Rally, are in key positions in European institutions, sharing the same level of commitment in the fight against cancer. I'm referring to the Health Commissioner Stella Kyriakides and our Member of European Parliament and Chairman of the MEPs Against Cancer Group, Loucas Fourlas. I would like to thank them for their hard work and their daily efforts in making cancer a top European priority. As the leader of our European People's Party in the European Parliament, my dear friend Manfred Weber announced from Cyprus in 2019. Raising awareness, sharing reliable information, and providing effective support through campaigns and events like this one is very crucial in our common fight against cancer. It empowers citizens and amplifies their collective voice. In Cyprus, by implementing the General Health Plan, we have managed to strengthen our core health system functions. We have become stronger as a society in tackling cancer, as well as in providing the necessary access to medicine and innovative treatments. Even though we are still far from reaching our goals, I'm very optimistic at the same time because it is the first time that we can actually talk about having real European joint action, a master plan which aims to support all member states in improving cancer control. Cancer concerns all of us in one way or another. It does not distinguish between age, sex, or race. That's why we all need to join forces to really make a difference and improve the lives of our citizens. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for addressing these words towards the audience. I will ask, it's my pleasure to introduce Professor Loidos Loizou. He's the director, he's one of our friends, he's a director of the Pediatric Oncology Hematology Unit in the Hospital of Nicosia. The floor is yours.
I would like to express many thanks to the organizers, and in particular to Loucas Fourlas and the SIOPE for allowing me to present you how Cyprus has managed and is managing the care for children and adolescents with cancer. Cyprus is a small country in the Eastern Mediterranean Sea. We started creating the POH, Pediatric Oncology Hematology Services, in 1990 because previously such services were in existence. The first priority was the creation of the POH clinic, staffed with specialized healthcare professionals. It's the only center in the country for managing children with cancer, located at the only reference hospital for children in Cyprus, providing all specializations needed. The continuous training of healthcare professionals was and is a priority. The accuracy of diagnosis, in particular pathology, is secured through referrals to review centers such as the one at the University of Bonn in Germany of the GPOH. In 1990, the Pediatric Oncology Registry of Cyprus was created as registration of childhood cancer as a capital importance. A system for monitoring childhood cancer survivors is put in place as is essential for their health and quality of life. This clinic has developed over the past 31 years a robust and extended international cooperative multi-center support system with POH centers of excellence from many EU and other countries. Therapies are given according to established international therapeutic protocols, such as the one from SIOPE, UKCCFG, SPOC, GPOH, and others. The support systems from the international POH community, such as the international MDT reviews for various cancer types and other expert advices, were also extensively used. The essential medicines mandatory for the supportive and anti-cancer therapies are continuously, without any limitations, offered free of charge by the government of Cyprus for the past 31 years. This is also true for innovative medicines and therapies, which were and are readily available when duly documented that are necessary. No shortages or limitations were experienced, thanks to the acceptance of the Cypriot governments to provide whatever necessary for children with cancer. Concerning therapies that are not available in our small country, the referral of patients to expert centers abroad, when necessary and duly documented, is facilitated and financially covered by the government of Cyprus. Referral patients traveling abroad used normal airline flights, and whenever indicated, there are no limitations of transfers by air ambulance, with all costs covered by the government. Patients are referred to EU countries, mostly in Germany and France, to centers of excellence with which we have developed close cooperation. The EU medical insurance certificate S2 is used for full coverage of medical expenses. However, there is no legislation for covering the expenses such as travel, living, accommodation of parents or other persons who accompany the patient. This financial burden is very important. In Cyprus, there are philanthropic organizations that provide substantial financial support to help families that are in financial need or have to go abroad for therapies. However, this is not satisfactory. Legislations are needed for financially assisting families referred abroad, in addition to the coverage of the medical costs, and also for the sustained livelihood for parents. Overall, the evolution of the program for managing childhood cancer in Cyprus for 31 years is favorable, with a steady positive progress. Today, the survival of our patients is more than 80%, comparable to that of high-income countries. The question is, what is our plan from now on? How can we improve the situation in Cyprus, but also contribute to the EU efforts for better therapies, improve access to essential and innovative medicines, decrease the unequal access to therapies globally, improve the holistic care to patients and survivors, and provide better support for parents? In 2020, we devised our national plan for the next 5 years. It has two main domains of actions. The first domain includes implementing the EU SIOPE and CCI Euro programs such as ERN, EU for Health, Artificial Intelligence and Big Data Exploitation, Pharmaceutical Strategy for Europe, and others. The second domain of actions of our national plan that we can present in detail on a different occasion is based on our belief that pediatricians and family doctors can play a crucial role, which today is not developed as it should, for improving many important aspects of the management of children and adolescents with cancer. In conclusion, Cyprus is a small country. It has been able over the last 31 years to develop a successful program for managing effectively the children and adolescents with cancer. We still need to do much more for continuous improvement. Nevertheless, we hope that our effort could become a paradigm for others and contribute for increasing cure rates for children with cancer, better support for families, and improvement of the quality of life of the survivors. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Loizo. That was a pleasure to listen to your talk. We are very strict in time. I will hand over to Alexis Georgoulis, which is an MEP from Cyprus. So I will ask him to briefly address a couple of minutes. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Commissioner, honorable members, ladies and gentlemen, it is a great pleasure to join you today to this conference for a major public health and social issue in Europe. I would like to thank Dr. Pamela Kearns and MEP Loucas Fourlas for the invitation and for their commitment to the fight against childhood cancer. My involvement with the subject as a member of the Special Committee on Beating Cancer made me realize that only coordinated actions can bring tangible results. Publicly funded research for innovative medicine and ensuring equal access to essential and novel anti-cancer medicines and supportive cancer care medicines are issues of utmost importance. Additionally, we should always have in mind that children with cancer often suffer not just from the physical effects of their disease, but from psychological effects caused by the isolation which comes with being apart and disconnected. We must also ensure best possible follow-up care and empowerment of childhood cancer survivors and their families. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much for being brief, and I will hand over the floor to Ruth for the last interventions.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you very much. So I have to announce now a short message from the BECA chair, Bartosz Arłukowicz. And I think this is shared by the SIOPE office.
Ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, it is a great honor for me to make the final speech at your event. Last September, the European Parliament decided to set up a special committee on beating cancer. The task in front of the committee is huge: to prepare a list of recommendations for the European Union to beat cancer together. It is the most important aspect, to be in this fight together, all member states, all patients, all doctors, and all politicians. As a doctor, I was working for many years with young patients. I saw their fight. I tried to help them. I played with them, and I cried with them and their parents. I have a personal experience of seeing how hard cancer is for children. Every year, 40,000 children in Europe get cancer. With some cancers, we are quite successful, but we should not stop until every child gets a chance to become an adult. As the chair of BECA committee, I always highlight the need to work together. Pediatric and rare cancers will be on our agenda in March, but we are not just here to talk. You can count on us if there is a need to cooperate on the political level. First, we must work together to make sure there is no shortage of medicines. Second, there is a need to support financing of new technologies and the access to new ones. What is more, we need to support the research and clinical trials in pediatric cancers. The COVID pandemic has shown us that only by working together we can get faster results. Use us. We are here for you and we are not afraid to help. I would like to thank SIOPE for all their work and for making this event possible. Let's work together.
Thank you very much to Bartosz Arłukowicz for his final presentation and really emphasizing the amazing commitment from the European Parliament. We started this event to highlight the issues to eradicate inequalities and to address the unmet needs. And for me, it's been heartening to hear the absolute commitment from leading European parliamentarians and from the European Commission and indeed from FPA to really make a difference. And I believe that there is now the opportunity to go from hope to real transformation with the help of all our colleagues. So on behalf of SIOPE Europe and indeed on behalf of CCI Europe, I would like to say a big thank you to all the speakers, to all the participants, and especially to our host, Loucas Fourlas, for allowing this event to happen. And with these words, I would like to hand over to our host for the final closing remarks.
Thank you so much. I'm so proud for what we achieved today. With pleasure, we heard and confirmed that determination of EU to fight cancer. The initiative regarding childhood cancer included in the European Speeding Cancer Plan is a great step forward for everyone. We are turning words in actions, concrete actions. I would like to thank scientists and all of the speakers and colleagues for your great contribution. It is only by coming together as a collective that we make a big enough impact. Thank you, SIOPE, for this initiative and cooperation. I hope that the next year and after the pandemic, I will have the honor to host this event into my country, Cyprus. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.